from the first two sessions. We will begin today's meeting, Sangha today, with just reflections on the prologue and chapter one, if you read chapter one. Go ahead.
Well, I have reflections on the prologue, Arjun.
Yes, sure.
And basically, I was very moved and impressed by the whole experience of the parikrama, and the dandavat that he does there, and the humility that it brings in, and the whole experience. So that was, I think, something that really stood out for me when I read the prologue.
Excellent. Yeah. So apologies for this noise. I think someone's car has been. Can you hear the noise, or can you hear the?
No, no, we can't.
Okay, then it's fine. All right. So that's great. Actually, we had this discussion on the parikrama too. Gayatri, you want to go next?
I mean, I had similar views to share, sir. I mean, the parikrama was one of the most important part, I think, of the prologue, and along with that, finding a guru was also another important part in the prologue. I've also had a chance to read the first chapter, so I think, in most of the chapter, I mean, I kind of found out how it's the conflict that arises or that leads to transformation at the end of the day. A lot of time we feel we might only have conflict with the others or people who are strangers, but Mahabharat says it otherwise. You tend to have conflicts with someone who is your immediate brothers or your family members, and that's what leads to that conflict in Arjuna's mind when he's on the battlefield. He says, okay, what will I get out of killing my own uncles and my own grandfather? So that's where the transformation begins. And I think another thing that I felt is oftentimes, there's no requirement for some other person B to be there. You might be in conflict with yourself, with the inner self. And that's where I think your internal transformation begins of you as a person. So I think that's a little reflection that I had.
Yeah, and the other thing is that some of your scars that you have been carrying over the years. In his case, the loss of his mother when he was 4 years old. So that kind of surfaced as a very important part for him during this austerity that he went through. So very good reflections indeed. Yeah, looks like we have really absorbed and hopefully made this into Vigyan for us. So yes, Vivan, Celia, last Nicole, anything that you want to share, and then we can move to the discussion. Today, actually, we begin with humility, so that's a good point which we'll touch upon. And then we'll move to unpacking what the dark night of the soul or yoga of despair really means.
Yes. While reading the prologue, I came with this question when he does this practice. At a point, he says like he's feeling a lot of pain on his knees and that his whole body is on a lot of pain. And I was wondering, like, why do we have to arrive to that suffering, like physical suffering, to arrive at this point of humility that we were saying? Like, why is needed so much suffering to arrive there?
Yeah, I mean, I think pain could be of many sources. And in fact, my first anecdote and story is a good segue into this. But before this, Vivan, do you have anything to share? Or should we continue?
Yes, Prabhu. My points are actually similar to Arvind Prabhu's. Like in the first chapter, the first line, it starts with that we call ourselves Homo sapiens sapiens, the wise species. But again, I would say that a little. I feel that's egoistic or arrogant because we are not really that wise if we see. And doing that Dandvat Parikrama or surrendering to, it's not just a mountain if we look at Govardhan, but even if a person looks at it like even if it's just a mountain and doing the Dandvat to a mountain, it really brings humility into that person.
Okay, fantastic. These are so good. The Homo sapiens thing and then Homo sentiens or something. Basically, he talks about how we are actually humans who suffer, and the world is designed to give us some sort of suffering. And I think that's a very maybe pessimistic view of the world. But when you walk this journey and become a person who can see despair as a yoga, as a form of connection. And as you walk the whole journey of this whole Gita, you will realize that suffering is just a framework that we use to actually reach a stage of Atmarama, which is someone who is finding happiness, prosperity, peace pretty much inside. And external circumstances don't really change that for that person. So that's the journey we'll walk. We'll get to the Atmarama stage if you stick around with me, or just whatever my little brain can produce. But this knowledge has been passed down 5,000 years and in succession in a lineage. So it's very priceless. And I think we are lucky, and I'm lucky to have such a very erudite audience with me. So I'm very grateful. So with that, I would start with a story. There was a proud scholar who would, from a small village, maybe in Bihar. He went to the US and, became this great astrophysicist. He also learned a lot of grammar, various languages. He'd studied philosophy. And one day he went back to his village, and the village was not very developed. And even now there was the bridge, very old bridge across the river had collapsed, and he had to go meet his uncle across the river. So he went to a boatman who would take him across. And while he was on the boat, he was, trying to impress the boatman that, do you know about this current affair, or do you know about what the International Space Station world is reached so far, and this village is so backward, they can't even repair their bridge. There's he was talking about high philosophy and astrophysics with him. Do you know about this? Do you know about that? Then suddenly there was this storm, just like what happened in Texas recently, right? Like you have this cloud burst or whatever, or a release from a dam, and this turmoil in terms of water, flow, and the boat hit a rock or something, and it was about to sink. So the boatman asked him a simple question: "Sir, do you know how to swim?" And then the scholar realized that, oh my God, I really actually don't know how to swim. Then the boatman said, "Sir, I have to go. I'll try to save you, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to. I'm afraid all your knowledge is about to be lost. So if you perish in this, whatever, don't blame me. But, this knowledge that you have from so many sources is about to get lost." So I think we can be very intellectual about our even study of philosophy. Like today we've gathered to study philosophy, but unless we really make it Vigyan, something which we truly care about and something which we realize within to apply it in our day-to-day life, skillful action is something we'll cover in this book in much detail. It's Karma Yoga, and what the highest form of skillful action is, Buddhi Yoga, is something we'll unpack. So intellectual knowledge is useless if it cannot help you when it matters most. True knowledge prepares you for life and death, not just to debate or to feel proud of your achievements. So I think even the whole Dandavat is that journey, right? It kind of unlayers all the pride, the ego. You touch the limits of your physical body, and you realize how small you are in terms of where the world is. The view from a full prostration, when you look up, you see people in a very different light. I haven't done the Dandavat Parikrama, so I haven't really got the qualifications, so I don't have the Vigyan to talk about it. But yeah, generally speaking, that's something we need to look at as a way of understanding and the humility mindset. Another point that my teacher, who's written this wonderful book called The Four Questions, talks about when he sort of explains humility, is a Sanskrit word called akinchana. So it's about having a beginner's mindset. I like people, or like everyone likes to be around people who are curious, who don't come with attitude into a conversation. So the mindset of humility keeps us really hungry and open to new knowledge. And if that knowledge is spiritual knowledge and you get guidance, and then it kind of becomes a tool for facilitating your personal and spiritual growth. And some of this knowledge you really realize is first principles. So it is valid in your spiritual journey. It's definitely valid in your worldly duties as well. So when we are humble, we develop deeper meaning in life. We look beyond personal gain toward the well-being of everyone around us. So from a stage where it's all I, me, myself, compete, compare, contrast, you become a lot more heart-centered, live from a point of empathy, and realize that some of the small worries or small narratives you built for yourself to defend your turf are actually limiting your growth, even as a leader in an organization or in your own school or university, or even in your work setting. So a truly humble person remains equipoised amidst all these ups and downs. So this Dandavat Parikrama obviously, teaches you to like, okay, there will be rocks on the street. This heat of the sun will really be terrible. There might be a dog peeing next to you when you're doing the parikrama. People spitting next to you. But it could be all kinds of things that you have to go through. And I think, how do you stay focused and complete that parikrama is something I haven't experienced, but I can only imagine what these people have gone through. Okay, so I had some points. Every time when we meet, I make these little pointers saying that, okay, what are the sections of the book we will cover? So we've covered humility. We've covered a bit of humility. And there's lots more about humility. We learn from the gopis later on. If you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, and you are in Vrindavan, you were in Vrindavan. So the whole idea of being in the land of Radharani and the gopis is to develop humility, because they are the epitome of humility, and we'll learn that it's a lot more esoteric and a lot more the heart of Indian culture. If you understand Vipralambha Bhav, which is love in separation, when you love someone but you love them more when you're separated from them, is what the gopis really had, and that is the most humblest form of existence we can think of. But anyway, that's way later. We'll get to that stage in this journey of this book towards the end. But I'll keep bringing this to the center at some point. So our main topic of today is despair, yoga of despair. Many of you might have been familiar with Indian texts like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. This, of course, the Bhagavad Gita is a section of the Mahabharata. But the Ramayana also has very interesting situations where people are in despair. They don't know how to do their duties. And one of them was Hanuman, who was not fully realized about his powers and didn't know how to serve. He was selected to be someone who would serve Ram, but he was very unsure on how he would do it. He wanted to. The main thing was that he really wanted to sort of be part of this mission to bring Sita back from Lanka. So Celia, Nicole, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Ramayana, but if you are, then yeah, that's great. Do you have some idea of the narrative?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's almost like Star Wars, right? You've watched Star Wars?
Yes.
Okay, so Star Wars is a ripoff of the Ramayana, like basic theme, some characters. So
Okay.
you have Princess Leia, who's captured by the Dark Lord, which is Darth Vader, taken to that planet Death Star, imprisoned, whatever, in exiled. And then there's Prince Luke Skywalker, who sort of assembles an army of chimps and ape-like characters, who then obviously help him fight with the Dark Lord. The Dark Lord is defeated, and Sita, Princess Leia, is kind of rescued. And then they go back for a coronation. So I think, anyways, not to say that this story in Star Wars is exactly the same as Ramayana, but yes, and the credit which Joseph Campbell, who was one of the authors, scriptwriters for the Star Wars series, acknowledges it. But Lucas, George Lucas, he didn't really acknowledge it. So we have a problem there. But anyways, so a lot of things which are ancient wisdom, it doesn't matter whether they get appropriated or not, they still remain eternal or sanatan. And some of us can sort of unpack and talk about that in the world. And I think that's our duty as well. So I would like to hear more about this. Dark night of the soul. We've talked about yoga of despair. It's a point in life where we question everything. It's like a midlife crisis for someone like me. I've had that, and someone who's been successful in my career. There's always that, okay, what next? Where is life really going? Why am I having these health problems? There's either lamentation of my past actions or fear of the future because of my health, or even confusion as to how do I live my day-to-day life. Those thoughts have become kind of the manifestation of suffering in my life. Then I've really realized that most of that suffering came from my in Sanskrit there's a word called anarthas. So suppose you desire something very intensely, could be an iPhone by looking at a billboard, and you don't have the money. uh, every day you go to the store, you play with it. They have these sample gadgets around. Your desire becomes even more fervent. You kind of deliberated upon it so much. One day you decide to break it into the store and steal it. So you go and steal the phone. Okay. Alarms go off, but you run away. But there are consequences. There are two types of consequences. One, of course, you get caught and there's punishment. There could be imprisonment, whatever else, embarrassment. But even after you've served your term, there is this lamentation that, why did I do that, right? So that lamentation is called suffering. It started from one of these: lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, or over attachment to things. So the characters in the Mahabharata will also show us that, most of their suffering is because the root was one of these 6 anarthas. There are many anarthas which are related to these 6 anarthas. So it's a whole body of study. So if you want to do a PhD study on anarthas and what it means to suffer in this world, we can talk about it. Okay, let's have someone who's raised their hand also speak. Go ahead.
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhu just made a point, and actually, I thought of something. I don't remember the name really, but there was a very famous criminologist, and he gave, I think, 6 reasons, or 6, we should say, emotions or tendencies that why people commit crimes. And I don't remember all 6, but I saw a common point. Top 3 of them were lust, anger, greed.
So yeah, great. I mean, again, it's common wisdom. So we don't want to say that he stole something from the Gita. I'm saying he
No,
definitely,
no, yes, I'm not saying he stole it, but I'm saying that it's
yeah,
really common that we can
yeah,
observe it if we notice.
exactly. I think many psychologists have also come to that conclusion. So the good thing about wisdom texts is that they stand on their own. You can use that wisdom to do your studies, you can, or improve your life. You can become a scholar, but not apply it in your life. So you have many Gita teachers who don't really want to make it Vigyan. They just want to be scholarly. They don't want to practice what the regulations which are prescribed, say as we move to chapter 4, or how to control our mind by avoiding certain things. What are the demoniac qualities? 18 demoniac qualities which are mentioned later on in chapter 16, or chapter 16 has some of the very good qualities also mentioned. So very few people want to study it to actually apply it. They just want to present themselves as scholars, which I hope I'm not doing. And of course, I'm just a beginner in this journey, so we all have to sort of bear with me if I make mistakes. So anyways, cool. I'll share my screen now. The next point that I'm trying to make is, what do we do then? Like if we are stuck with this existential crisis in our lives, and we need solutions that are way out, there is a chance that we have no guidance. We can just live an ordinary life in the ordinary world, and by our whims and fancies, sort of do what we want to go out of this dark night. So basically, ignore it or postpone it or push it under under the rug, or just go with what our friends tell us. Arey, theek ho jayega, or go grab a drink, or it'll all pass. But if you take no guidance and ignore it, the doubt and insecurities keep building up. So you're just postponing the inevitable. So embracing a challenge is critical. And then once you postpone the challenge, it it kind of snowballs into a very big existential crisis. It could be even seeking forgiveness. It could be acts of kindness which you should have done, and it's been long delayed with people, relationships. Most of these things are actually boils down to relationships, and that's why Vrindavan is so important. It teaches us about relationships. The key to any spiritual awakening is about really dealing and living in this world the way that can take you away from these doubts and insecurities. So the guidance that you can get from teachers, especially by being in Vrindavan, is really special. So yeah, Celia, Nicole, you had a really good first step into Vrindavan. Of course, when the existential crisis is reached a stage where it is impossible to deal with, that's when we call anxiety disorders or even suicidal tendencies or whatever else. So that's the extreme situation of mental health being compromised. On the flip side, and on a positive note, when we seek guidance from a teacher who knows us, who cares for us, who also has the ability to suggest solutions to your problem, you get clarity and purpose. You see your pain as something which gives you purpose. You look at your problems as something which gives you direction to progress. And that's what it means to be existentially awake. Another way to look at it is clarity of purpose is about living your truth. It could be even finding a career, or it could be existential crisis is like, I'm not happy with my current career or my current field of study, and I really want to move to another thing. And that is something we can always talk about. So that existential awakening leads to committing to the path you want to travel, and that gives you deep happiness. So that's something I wanted to end our discussion with. There's a few more points on this, but I guess we stick to our time limit. And in case you feel 20-24 minutes is too less and you want to carry on, I'll just put a poll for tomorrow and we can do 30 minutes. But so far, let's end with maybe one or two reflections on the dark night of the soul and what this particular framework and flowchart means to you. Okay, so maybe just one person and we'll close. So I'll ask you. Yeah, go ahead.
All I've understood is we need a teacher who could guide, right? At the end of the day, it's a guru who can show you the way out. I think that's a part of the Indian tradition, to have a guru and then learn from them.
Yeah, that's true. When we talked about, Hanuman, he had that Jamvan moment, right? Who just tapped him on the back and said, hey, look, you can do it. And then as long as he gave him that confidence, all the knowledge and all the strength and everything came inside, right? And so I think that's the power of the guru. And I was actually thinking about comparing Arjuna with Hanuman. Hanuman was someone who had already realized everything, right? And then he just needed a wake-up call. Whereas Arjun went through the whole teaching. So the Gita is really special because it's our situation. We really need everything to save ourselves. Okay, so with that, I think we'll end. If you have comments, suggestions, you can always feel free to leave audio notes on the group chat. Yeah, so thank you and have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.